Meeting Pete, Part 3. There are people. Not the swamp I was expecting. There's a line from the center of the store that curves along the front, back to the opposite wall. Can I help you? All of a sudden, there's an elderly woman in front of my nose. Someone who would have said, Pete Wentz was a nice boy. I'm here for the Pete Wentz signing, and I bought a book. So did they, and she pointed to the end of the line. I smile. That's all I can do. I get in line behind a well-dressed young woman and a guy with a shoulder bag. She's a little embarrassed because she came right from work. She was in black heels, black shift, looked very nice. She explained to the guy how hard she worked the night before to ensure she was allowed to attend tonight. She did extra projects and stayed late to make sure things got done. The man she was with was sweet and effeminate. He nodded and offered simple, as he got out an expensive camera and in the tiny space started assembling it the way snipers could assemble their rigs undetected. He diffused her nerves and was ready to take pictures. He was there for support. The line moved inch by inch around the corner. Not so far how I planned. I was glad I wasn't in an internal fetal position. I remember reading people who talk to people in line are happier than those who don't, so I should talk to people. I could have talked to the girl ahead of me about her shoes, her dress, asked what she did, tell her how I thought it was awesome she put in all that work to see Pete. I could have asked her friend about his camera. Was he a photographer? How did he get into it? Who did he like? But I found myself in front of books featuring Chicago, and leafed through one on the blues. There were 3 women behind the information desk finding books in boxes. What's the name? Vasseur. I hand her the receipt to help. She didn't take it, but reached for a box with purple cards. Another woman grabbed it first and went through it. My helper paused and let her. This had been her evening. Soon her fingers grazed the tops of cards. She goes through the box again. Her brow furrows as she looks at the label. Yep, I should be in there. She grabs another box and goes through it. Not in there either. She looks around. No, I have a book. She pulls a huge box out from under the table and dives in. I eyeball people around me who already have their books. I'm pretty sure I can take that girl and snag her book. Cora? Yep. She moved a couple pages to the title page. She put the card in and slid the book over. So glad I went back for my receipt and confirmation. The books were organized in standalone shelves, creating neat little aisles. 2 teenage girls were checking out the books, talking. A woman with signs on sticks stopped by them. Hi, what number are you? They told her. You're my new best friends. She handed them a stick with a number on it. You're the head of the line. Everyone's to line up behind you. And she moved on to the next row. Hi, what's your number? You need to be behind them. What's your number? I found myself going down the humor and fiction aisle, with a girl holding a sign saying 101 to 150. I'm 146. I head to the back, excusing myself and apologizing for living. I stop where I think my number would be. The end. I'm now in general fiction, so I browse through titles and authors I've wanted to read, but haven't, by looking over girls' shoulders. Numbers 151 to 200 were in the next aisle, science fiction and fantasy, and 201 to 300 were trying to get sorted in the reference section. The first pack of 50 were up now. I was fascinated listening to all the conversations. There were baby groupies, exchanging stories how they had taken school off to see a Fall Out Boy in concert. Not like a couple hours to get to the venue on time. They took weeks off school to follow the Midwest leg of the tour. One had followed them up into Canada. Her mother next to her beamed and nodded. She was as excited as the daughter about this. I wasn't the oldest, and I wasn't the youngest. A young woman was explaining her master's thesis to a girl in front of her. Then she explained what a master's was. Then what a thesis was. Someone in the world travel section calculated by the number of people and the speed of the line, after they meet Pete, they had anywhere from 4 to 7 minutes to make the next train back to Chicago. I had girls discussing homeroom teachers and, oh my god, do you have Roberts? No, I wanted to interrupt. They just told you they had Peterson. It was time. Our line moved, filed up past the greeting cards and little book-themed trinkets, items you would only find in a bookstore. We were either moving down the chute to slaughter or down the corridor to meet the king. Then I told myself to shut up and knock it off. We were led out into the open space, and we got to see him for the first time. There he was, as promised. He showed up. He didn't pull an Aussie. He looked like him. He was one of those high cafe stools and high cafe tables. And I say this out of complete love, he looked like a Muppet. It was unmistakably him above the table. That was Pete Wentz. Dark hair, bright smile, eyes. But below, there were these impossibly tiny legs, like felt pieces they put on Kermit. We got our instructions from the woman who handed out the numbers. Hand us your book, give your camera to someone to take your picture. The message was clear. No traffic jams. The very tall, very pretty girl in front of me took her phone from her back pocket. "Would you take my picture?" she asked. "Sure." What was I going to say? She handed me her phone. "And I'll take yours." Great! Look at that, efficiency. We get up there. She hands over her book. I step over to take the photo. She gets right next to him. I look at the phone to take the picture. I freeze. He's looking right at me. He's looking at me through the phone. It was like those mythical creatures when you look them in the eyes head on or through something, you turn to stone. "Take the picture!" I hit the button. She stands up, very somber, and takes her book. I return her phone and hold up my camera to her. She erupts sobbing and shaking. She's escorted off and I'm left holding my camera. I sputtered and baby talked. I don't know where that came from. Okay, no photo. It's a little disappointing, but I understand. The woman took my book and gave it to Pete. I was missing the event. He opened it to the title page. His dying marker scrawled his name. "Did you want a picture?" the woman who organized the lines asked. She saw the camera in my hand. I had stood back because I figured I wasn't getting one. I started to say, "No, it's okay." It wasn't, but I was holding up the line, when I realized there's this arm around my shoulders. He wasn't putting weight on it, but Pete, in his warm sweater, leaned over for the picture. He was in his zone. He didn't realize I wasn't in picture pose. His job was to take the book, open the book, sign book, arm around, and smile at whatever device was aiming. He was warm. Out of the corner of my eye, he was right there. Like he knew me. Like we were in a booth at a diner and the person across from us got their phone out and said, "Squeeze in." There was silence, like being in a vacuum. This was a man. He had skin and hair. He was a son, a friend, and a father. His name was Pete. There was Pete, and then there was this perceptible ball of light that circled between us. It was round and moving, a bright yellow-white energy. There was another entity up there with us. It was amazing. I have never experienced anything like that before. It wasn't an energy transfer. That was the energy that level operates from. That was leveling up. That's what it's like to be in the flow. And I wanted it. It felt so possible and so tangible. The woman took my camera. "Nobody gets left behind," she said, and handed it to the girl behind me who was from LaSalle, Peru, which is about an hour and a half away. The girl held up the camera and froze. Pete Wentz was looking at her. The flash went off. The arm vanished, and he closed the book like he had just finished reading it, turned his head and smiled. A little smile, but huge dimples. I realized I was looking down, stunned by the little energy ghost that was still there, now sneaking behind his legs like a shy child. I was ushered off into the magazines. Magazines? I was in the magazines! It happened so fast. I felt like Ralphie from the Christmas Story after he met Santa in the department store. No! I wanted to do it again. I didn't focus on him. I made it about me. He didn't have any smell. I love men who smell good. He didn't smell of cologne, deodorant, even soap. I wonder if he's told not to wear anything because some people are allergic or so sensitive. Then to my horror, I realized I didn't thank him. I pride myself on my manners. I thank everyone, every day and in all situations. And I didn't thank him, or the woman who made sure I got a photo. I come back onto the floor in time to see the girl who put in extra hours lean in and the friends start shooting like it was a photo shoot. The shutter spit out its mechanical song, capturing Pete signing the book, Pete looking up, Pete smiling. And can we just... The guy made a motion to the girl. She flipped her hair over her shoulder and leaned in. He took a couple more shots. They thanked him in this chorus and walked off. "How'd it feel?" he asked, and she gushed. He listened and went through the shots. I checked my camera. Not the best of pictures, but proof. I'm smiling right at the camera, hands in my coat pockets. I look casual. He wasn't leaning in as far as I thought. You could tell it was him, and you could tell it was me. The background was shaky because the girl behind me had the same experience. Pete once looked at her. She saw me checking the camera. "Is the picture okay?" she asked. "Yep, looks great." What was I going to say? "Thanks for jumping in at the last moment, but next time can we get a little more together?" I had a picture. People got their books signed and funneled right out the front. I didn't want to leave. I felt that energy and wanted to feel that way again. It wasn't soulmate energy. It wasn't love or infatuation, and it wasn't starstruck. This was what was possible at this level. You too could be sitting at a cafe table, signing your books and sending people on their merry way. Shoot, you could even be on red carpets. Now I know that's a stretch, but that evening it felt so possible, like it was a vision or door to the future that cracked open. Just enough so I could see through. I didn't want to leave, so I checked out the books on Zeppelin. I bought a book that's been recommended to me and I've wanted to read. A couple of girls had entered the little kids section where they have fabric books and wooden books. And through the display of whirligig toys and a couple storybook characters, you could see Pete at the table. I have never felt so voyeuristic, and yet I stayed. Just one more picture. It was a great shot. The flash went off like a supernova, and I shot out of the kids section before I could get caught saying, "Sorry, sorry, sorry." One of the girls said with complete compassion, "It's okay." I was starting to push it, ruin the experience, but I didn't want to leave. If I left, I couldn't go back. And I heard, "Yes, you can." Driving through dark Naperville, I wanted to feel this way forever. I had succeeded. I really took note of how I felt in my body. I wanted to memorize it and save it as a yardstick. The future from this position was exciting. Everything was possible.